WWF Royal Rumble from Acclaim. Now on Genesis, with more wrestling superstars and more specialty moves than ever before. 16-man mayhem, incredible 6 men in the ring action, in the ring, out of the ring, out of control. WWF Royal Rumble on Super NES and now on Genesis. Get ready to rumble!
In December of 1983, an arcade game hit the scene in Japan and introduced a very old thing to a very new world. Big Pro Wrestling, or Tag Team Wrestling as it was known outside of Japan, hits the arcades and brings wrestling to the eager video game masses. And it would only take a few years before the superstars of the World Wrestling Federation would take over video games in a big way. I'm Brian, this is Drink the Video Games, and today I'll be taking a look at the video game tie-ins from the world of wrestling.
It is better to give than to receive.
Give it to him good when WWF Wrestlemania slams out of the arcade and into your home.
To thine own self be true.
With the most true-to-life wrestling you've ever seen.
Love thy neighbor.
But sometimes love hurts in the World Wrestling Federation.
Do unto others.
Do it to them first. WWF Wrestlemania, the arcade game for leading home systems from Acclaim. No pain, no gain.
So before we get into the world of WWF/WWE games, we need to learn two things. One, how did we get the World Wrestling Federation, and then World Wrestling Entertainment as we know it? And two, how did wrestling games get started? And actually both of those things happen at about the same time. Let's start with the WWF. Now, to know the full history of how we get from the beginnings of this wrestling organization all the way up to the most recent WrestleMania, WrestleMania 42, the story begins all the way back in 1953. Now, this isn't a wrestling documentary, there are plenty of those out there, so for our purposes just know that from 1953 until 1979, there were various regional wrestling organizations that spanned the US, until Vincent K. McMahon and his wife Linda found Titan Sports, by the WWF, and began to expand the territory. Then in late 1983, they signed the bright new star, Hulk Hogan, to come wrestle for their company, and the rest is history. Now something else is happening in late 1983, and while Hulk Hogan is preparing to win his first of 6 WWF championships, Technos is releasing the Big Pro Wrestling to Tokyo arcades.
My first challenge was to educate everybody here about the science of WWF wrestling. The next step was to roll up our sleeves and really get to work. For this, we required the help of the biggest names in the World Wrestling Federation, including Yokozuna, The Undertaker, and lots more. All the top guys doing their biggest and baddest moves. Then it was time to get really busy. Working with artists and programmers, we crammed all the WWF energy into a video game that's more exciting and real than anything you've ever seen.
Come on, you guys. There it is, right there in front of you the whole time. You're dereferencing a no pointer. Open your eyes.
Technos is a company I've talked about before. They were the company behind Double Dragon. But before they gave the world Billy and Jimmy Lee, they gave the world the first wrestling game with the Big Pro Wrestling, or Tag Team Wrestling as it was known outside of Japan. The game itself is pretty simple. Each player controls a tag team pair of wrestlers. You roam around the ring until you get into a grapple with your opponent, and then you pick an action. Repeat until a winner is declared. So, when this game releases to US arcades in January of 1984, the same month that Hulk Hogan wins his first WWF Championship belt, the world of video games has the two ingredients it needs to get the ball rolling: wrestling games and a face to put on those games, and that first game will hit the shelves for the Atari ST and Commodore 64 in 1987. Micro League Wrestling, a game developed by Subway Software and Riedel Software, published under the Micro League Sports banner. This game featured a digitized Hulk Hogan and was endorsed by the World Wrestling Federation. When you bought this turn-based strategy game, you got 2 matches, Hulk vs. Randy Savage, and Hulk vs. Paul Orndorff. Basically, you'd choose your move, see some digitized images, and get play-by-play commentary from Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura, pre-match interviews with Mean Gene Okerlund, and technical, though not especially riveting action. But for gamers in 1987, this was as realistic as it got, because honestly, the digitization looks pretty good. Plus, there were expansions bringing in 6 more wrestlers over the next year. But if you were a gamer and you wanted something a little more interactive than just rearranging matches, you wouldn't have to wait long, because in 1989, the superstars of the WWF would hit us with a 1-2 punch with the new arcade game, and the game every kid in the 80s remembers, Wrestlemania on the NES.
Now watch me race the Macho Man with Acclaim's Wrestlemania for the Nintendo Entertainment System. A leg drop, an elbow smash, a body slam!
WWF Wrestlemania from Acclaim!
Ooh, yeah, I want a rematch.
In this corner, we have the aforementioned Technos Japan with their arcade game WWF Superstars. In basically a reskin of their tag team wrestling game, you'd make a duo of WWF superstars, move around the ring, get into grapples, and try to win the championship belt in New York and Tokyo by defeating the Megabucks, aka Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and Andre the Giant. To follow up, Technos would release another arcade game, WWF WrestleFest, in 1991. This entry adds more wrestlers to the roster, adds in a Royal Rumble mode, and now allows for 4-player arcade action. These 2 arcade cabinets did gangbusters for Technos, being one of the top grossing games in both Japan and North America. In the other corner, we have the home consoles, and the 1989 NES release of WWF Wrestlemania. I talked, at length, about how important 1989 was for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the year was pretty big for wrestling as well. This year saw the fallout of Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage, the first Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and the release of Acclaim's WWF Wrestlemania. It features the cast you'd expect: Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, the $1 Million Man, Andre the Giant, the Honky Tonk Man, and Bam Bam Bigelow were all here to punch, kick, headbutt, and body slam their opponent. This game was directed by Tim Stamper, one of the most influential names in gaming. Tim and his brother Chris founded Rare Limited, who had a good working relationship with Nintendo. Donkey Kong Country and GoldenEye come to mind. Anyways, 1989's WrestleMania was a hit for both Acclaim and the WWF, selling somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million copies, and forging a partnership that would last the next decade. Acclaim did a bunch of wrestling games in that period. 1991's WWF Superstars for the Game Boy, technically published by LGN, but was owned by Acclaim. 1993's Royal Rumble for the SNES and Genesis. 1996's WWF in Your House, just to name a few. Acclaim even released a VHS board game, the VCR Wrestlemania game.
These are the biggest and baddest wrestlers in the entire world, and they're waiting to take you on in the ring.
Or you can take them on with Acclaim's VCR Wrestlemania game. This board game and video cassette puts the wrestling superstars in your corner and gives you the greatest wrestling moves of all time. So go ahead, jump into the ring.
And with the VCR Wrestlemania game, you can win. From Acclaim.
Now, when you hear VHS board game, you probably think that game sounds terrible. And speaking on behalf of all people that grew up in the 80s and were tricked into playing these types of games, you are correct. The board itself looks one part incredible and one part like a 6th grade art project. At least you got to see some wrestling on the VHS tape. Anyway, all good things must come to an end, because in 1999, Acclaim lost the license for the WWF, but the games would keep coming, and keep coming fast, because the license gets picked up by THQ and Jakks Pacific, and they would be on the hook for 2 games per year. Luckily for me, I'm only on the hook for 1 cocktail per episode, but I'm up against the ropes. Thankfully, Michaela turned up just in time to tag in and help me get one made up. Alright, Michaela, thank you so much for joining me ringside today as we are talking about the world of wrestling video games. How are you doing?
I am so good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to talk about wrestling video games with you.
Wrestling video games, absolutely. I appreciate that you came, because right now you are living in a madhouse of wrestling. Speaking to your kid, he's like all wrestling all the time right now. So shout out to him. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, because the wrestling video games, it's like a crazy thing. It started like way back in the 80s, and then obviously the WWE and WWF had all of their kind of tie-in games over the course of this time, and that is exactly what I'm doing. But let me pose this question to you, Michaela. You grew up in like the mid to late 80s, early 90s, same as me. I was a big wrestling fan. All of my my friends and all the kids I knew were big wrestling fans. That was like the heyday, right? Like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, all those wrestlers, those classic wrestlers in the golden age there. Were you a fan of wrestling back in the day?
So, a little. I didn't really have television, remember? Like a conventional TV. So it was hard for me to like see a game or, see a match. But I remember Nickelodeon, that I did have access to for a little while, had a special with Hulk Hogan. And so that's kind of how I learned about him. Okay. And then, of course, through the Rocky 2, I think Hulk Hogan is in it. So that was one I knew. But like, I think it was Jesse Ventura. He came to my elementary school.
Oh, okay.
One spring. I was maybe in 4th grade, and he talked about not doing drugs.
Don't do drugs? He's fresh off the Predator.
Remember that? Yeah. And he was like, my most recent match was with this person, and I'm here to tell you, crack is whack. Don't do it. It was really cool, actually, that I remember that because, I mean, it was kind of neat. But that's really it, unfortunately. I'm much better versed in it because I have to be, because I'm learning by osmosis, because my kid knows everything.
You're a good mom, and you're listening to your kid tell you about wrestling 24 hours a day, no doubt. Yeah, but that's kind of the interesting thing, and that was part of the reason that I decided to do this episode, because wrestling really like transcended the world of wrestling. Like you mentioned Hulk Hogan. Like Hulk Hogan was like as popular as anyone else, probably on the planet there for a short time, and not just because of wrestling, because his face was on everything growing up when we did. So even if you weren't like a wrestling fan, like you still were probably familiar with like the world of wrestling, which is kind of where we got that. I don't know if you have a favorite wrestler then in light of that, but growing up, my favorite wrestler was always the Ultimate Warrior. So I thought today we could make a cocktail that pays homage to the Ultimate Warrior with an Ultimate Warrior Sour.
Oh, I like it. Well, it's going to have the bones of a whiskey sour, right? So you're going to need some whiskey or bourbon, higher proof probably for this. And then you're going to want some passion fruit puree. And of course, because it's a sour, you want lemon, simple syrup, and of course, an egg white, because we're going to make it the right way. It's going to be amazing. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take a shaker tin and you're going to put your egg white in it. You're going to put half an ounce of simple syrup, half an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 ounce of passion fruit puree, 2 ounces of some high-proof bourbon or whiskey. You are not going to add ice yet. We're doing what we call a dry shake. So you're going to put the top on it. Make sure that top is on really, really well, because this egg is going to make it explode if you don't. You're going to shake it, 10, 20 seconds, something like that. And you're going to open it up. Then you're going to add some ice, and then you're going to finish shaking it till it's nice and cold. And then you're going to strain it into a rocks glass or a coupe glass. It's going to be amazing. If you haven't had a whiskey sour with egg white, you're welcome. Because this is the way to make it. The passion fruit puree, that's really cool. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. The passion fruit puree gives it a nice sweetness, a nice brightness here to the traditional lemon sour. I feel like when I think of the Ultimate Warrior, I think of like all the like bright, like vibrant, like colors of like the outfit and like the face paint and stuff that he was wearing. I was like, I feel like passion fruit puree does a good job there of recreating that. It's a whiskey sour, so you can decorate the top with like a couple of dashes of like Angostura bitters, and you do that thing where you like streak it with a toothpick. You could put just a few like colored streamers in there to pay homage to the Ultimate Warrior if you feel so inclined. But yeah, that is the cocktail here. I just wanted to I was thinking back to my childhood, to my roots there, to the wrestling as it were, and wanted to go that direction with the cocktail for this month. So Michaela, thank you so much for dropping in. I'm gonna let you get back to modern day wrestling, I guess, as it were. You keep me up to date on how that's going over there. Thank you so much for dropping in, and now let's get back to the World Wrestling Games.
The Rock can't believe this little Rudy Pucciabroni has stolen all The Rock's signature moves. He walks like The Rock. He talks like The Rock. He's got the rock bottom, the people's elbow, the people's eyebrow. That's gimmick infringement. That ain't right. He's even got the millions and the millions of The Rock's fans playing this video game. The Rock, know your role and shut your mouth.
Over 50 WWF superstars hold their signature moves and taunts. Wrestlemania 2000.
The Rock is going to take that little green bag, all those little video games, and stick them straight up your candy ass.
THQ.
So THQ, the company, is sort of a crazy tale unto itself. Founded in 1990, Toy Headquarters, or THQ, because that's the business they were in, toys, and also buying other businesses. One of those businesses was Black Pearl Software, so in 1994, THQ stops making toys and solely begins making video games, and in 1999, they would branch out into the world of licensing deals, notably the Power Rangers, Nickelodeon's Rugrats, and the WWF. So as I mentioned before, part of the licensing deal was that THQ agreed to publish 2 wrestling games per year. So between 1999 and the time THQ goes out of business in 2013, there are a lot of games that covered a lot of platforms. Their first game, Wrestlemania 2000, released on the Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Color in November of 1999. The transition to THQ went great, at least for gamers, because the reception to WrestleMania 2000 was amazing. It's a 1 million copy seller, ranked one of the best Nintendo games of all time by Nintendo Power, and was nominated for Console Fighting Game of the Year. The game itself featured a huge roster of characters, different arenas, create a character mode. THQ hit the ground running with their first release, and if you look at the list of THQ releases, it reads like a historical text of video game advancements, going from the Nintendo 64 to the PlayStation, Game Boy Advance, Nokia N-Gage, PSP, GameCube, with their final game, WWE 13, releasing on the PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, and Xbox 360. These games came out in the heyday of WWE SmackDown and Raw, and were pretty much universally loved. It's important to shout out Yuke's, the Japanese video game developer who worked alongside THQ in the creation of these games. So if you are into wrestling, these games are great. Some of the best examples of ringside action. Unfortunately, though, all good things come to an end, because with THQ closing their doors, 2K is going to take over the license. Now, luckily for us wrestling game fans, THQ and Yuke's had one final trick up their sleeves. Unfortunately, it was going to give us false confidence for what 2K was going to do with their games. Let's talk about 2K.
Welcome to E3, Miz.
It's good to be here.
Are you enjoying the show?
So far, so good. I literally just got here. You guys were like taking me. You're the first ones. So congratulations.
Swept in on you.
I literally went, I have to come here right now and do
see
it.
These guys,
exactly.
Right?
So
to talk to Community 2K.
But I mean, this is absolutely insane. I cannot believe how much money is spent on video games each and every year, and just the technology is just advanced. I mean, from back in my day when I just played Nintendo and Super Mario Brothers with Duck Hunt. I mean, that was the extent of it. When the glove came out, I was like, oh my god. Now it's like these controllers are literally like 10 buttons, and I'm like my dad. I'm like, what are all these buttons for?
With THQ shuttering their doors in 2013, the license for making WWE games was up in the air, and the big winner was Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of 2K. With 2K at the helm, they would publish their first game, WWE 2K14, and it's received pretty well, and one of the big reasons for that is the game was largely a product of THQ. It turns out they had almost finished the game before shutting down, so The Rock and 2K get slapped onto the cover, and we are off and running. 2K would keep up the publishing rhythm, releasing 2K15, 16, 17, 18, 19 annually. Yuke's was still on board doing a large portion of the game development, and while the games lost some of the fun that those THQ games had, they had greatly improved the graphics and created a more realistic simulation, watching wrestling on TV kind of feel. If you are familiar with any of the other 2K sports games, you know what I mean. So the ball is rolling with the annual releases for 2K, but they make a change. Yuke's, who had been helping develop wrestling games for the last 20 years, you're out, and 2K's in-house development team, Visual Concepts, is taking over for game development for WWE 2K20, and it goes not great.
WWE 2K19 looked like it stopped the downward trend for the series, but WWE 2K20 doubles back, breaks its ankle, and tumbles down the slope. Fundamental parts that felt totally fine in WWE 2K19 now feel clumsy. The impressive roster of over 200 superstars is all but meaningless when a majority of them look like this. And while 2K20's My Career mode offers a better wrestling story mode than previous WWE 2K games, that's a low bar to clear, and it's still saddled with bad progression and a plodding pace. This is a mess that 2K needs to clean up, and clean up in a hurry. As The Fiend says, yowie wowie.
If you followed video game news even a little in 2019, you undoubtedly heard about the disaster that was WWE 2K20. The graphics were terrible, the controls were terrible, there are still YouTube videos showing the horrifying game glitches. After being listed by several publications in their Worst Game of the Year lists, 2K put their series on hiatus, canceling 2K21 and going on to delay the release of 2K22. Now, 2K does release a game in this window. This one's developed by Saber Interactive. WWE 2K Battlegrounds, a more cartoonish, arcade-style fighting game that honestly doesn't review very well either. But it did the hard work of giving 2K some time to get their act together, and it seems like they did. Coming back after the hiatus, the video gaming fans' trust was gone, but the games were vastly improved and more fun than the initial 2K run. 2K22, 23, 24, 25, and this year's WWE 2K26 have all gotten favorable reviews, and even earned a few Sports Game of the Year nominations, so it seems like 2K has turned from heel to face for the WWE brand. So now what for these WWE games? Well, we don't know for sure. They have not disclosed the terms of the 2K WWE license deal, but in an epic storyline worthy of Monday Night Raw, it was renewed in 2022 after the completely unexpected redemption of 2K. So it looks like once a year we'll be getting a new entry in this series, and we can hope that 2K keeps up their end of the deal and brings us some good video game wrestling action.
Hey, WWF fans, the WrestleMania video game puts you inside the ring.
Acclaim has brought home the arcade smash hit WrestleMania. With such great graphics, you just can't get any closer.
I can't believe it, man. It's like they put me right in the game.
This companion video will make you a champion. You'll hear from the WWF superstars themselves as they give you secrets and strategies that can't be found anywhere else.
With these secret moves, you can bury your opponent.
This companion video is for use with Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, 32X, Sony PSX, and PC CD-ROM.
My own wrestling video game story started back on that 1989 WWF Wrestlemania game. I never owned it, but as a huge wrestling fan in the late 80s and early 90s, like every other kid I knew, I'd rent it every chance I got. Now, unfortunately, since wrestling games are technically, generally speaking, fighting or beat-em-up games, I'm terrible at them, but I've always found them fun in all the ways professional wrestling is fun. The characters are over the top, the action is crazy, and playing these games is as close as most of us will get to landing a flying elbow off the top rope. I played wrestling games up through my days with the PlayStation before taking my own very long wrestling hiatus, but 2K has lured me back to the ring to wrestle my way to a championship belt, digitally at least. This episode really only scratches the surface of the wrestling video game world. There are WCW games, ECW games, Japan Pro League Wrestling, to name a few, plus dozens of unaffiliated games like Fire Pro Wrestling that let you take over control of the action. But now I want to know, what is your favorite wrestling game? Is it 1999's WWF Attitude, or that VCR game? Have you ever heard of Micro League Wrestling, or are the 2K games more your speed? But more importantly, who is your favorite wrestler, and did you have an Ultimate Warrior, as we talked a little bit about the history of WWF and WWE video games. Let me know all that stuff on my social media. It's at Drink the Video Games on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you want to support this podcast or Drink the Movies, check out our Patreon. It's the best place to show some support and get a bunch of bonus content. Bonus episodes, cocktail chats, game sessions, behind-the-scenes content. www.patreon.com/drinkthemovies is the place to find all of that stuff. If you are liking the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps get the podcast out to more people. And thank you so much for listening. That's going to wrap up this month's episode about IP tie-ins, talking about the wide world of wrestling games. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back next month with a brand new episode. Cheers.